determination of write down determination of refractive index of a prism. Determination of refractive index of a prism. Determination of refractive index of a prism by critical angle method. By critical angle method. Determination of refractive index of a prism by critical angle method. By critical angle method. Listen. Listen. This is a theory. Right? This is a theory. We know if the critical angle occurs, when light ray grazes through the interface, say this is the critical angle, right? This becomes 90, right? Apply Snell's law here. Right? I apply Snell's law here. N1 sin I equals N2 sin R, right? Say this is, by the way, tell me, critical angle is only possible from which medium to which medium? Critical angle is only possible from rare to dense. Dense to rare. Right? Dense to rare. Right? This should be dense. This should be rare. Right? So let's say this is a medium with refractive index n, and this is air. This is air. Right? Then n1 is n, sin I is sin c, n2 is 1, and sin R is sin 90. Sin 90 is 1. Right? Then sin c equals 1 over n. Right? Sin c equals 1 over n. N equals 1 over sin c. Right? This is the theory. Right? Using this equation, you can determine the refractive index of prism by the critical angle. If the critical angle is known, refractive index of prism can be determined. Right? Just by using this equation, N equals 1 over sin c. Right? Take it down as a theory. N equals 1 over sin c. Right? Okay, finished? Okay, write down materials and apparatus. Materials and apparatus. Materials and apparatus. Write down an equilateral prism. An equilateral prism. An equilateral prism. Drawing board. Drawing board. Drawing pins. Drawing board. Drawing pins. Optical pins. Optical pins. A ruler. A ruler. A ruler. A ruler. A protractor. A ruler. A protractor. A ruler. A protractor. Right. Look at here. This is the method. Right. Look at here. Listen. Now we are keeping this equilateral prism on the white sheet. Keeping the equilateral prism on the white sheet. Right? And one pin, one optical pin, right, one optical pin. Drawing pins are to fix the white sheet to the board, right? Optical pins are to locate the images, right? Locate the images. Then one optical pin should be fixed somewhere here as it is in contact with the surface. Say this is ABC, as it is in contact with the AB surface, right? The reason to keep it in contact is to avoid refraction of light rays, right? If there is not in contact, we can see the direct light ray without being refracted through the air medium. No? Glass refraction. Now, when we are seeing this, when we are seeing this from the, observing this from the opposite surface, right? You can observe this light ray without any refraction at this surface. May surface के refraction ना, because there is in contact with the glass. Right? Then we'll be observing the image of this pin. Let's say P1. We'll be observing the image of the pin P1 moving the eye from B to C and C to B. Right? But it's better to move in both directions, back and forth. Right? When we move it from B to C, listen, when you move your eye from B to C, we will see a point where an image is suddenly appeared, is getting appeared. Then at some point, you will see the image of this getting appeared. Right? That is because of the total internal reflection. Right? Then imagine total internal reflection. Right? This is coming to here. If it is totally reflected, then we can observe it somewhere here. Right? We are about to draw the ray diagram. And using total internal reflection, we will be observing the image of this P1 when you are moving your eye from B to C. Then it is a sudden appearance of the image. Right? If you move your eye from C to B, right? Image is already appearing and it will be suddenly disappeared. Right? May point disappear. Right? It's a sudden appearance. For the opposite, vice versa, sudden disappearance. Right? And that is called the critical point here. That is called the critical point of this experiment. Right? Then you have to identify that critical point where the image is suddenly appeared or suddenly disappeared. Right? And after identifying that point, we have to fix another two pins, as these two pins are collinear with the suddenly appearing image of this P1. Right? When we move the eye from B to C and C to B, you will see that critical point. Right? In one direction, it is suddenly appeared, and in the other direction, it suddenly disappeared. Right? That is called the critical point. At the critical point, we are going to fix the second pin, as it is collinear with that suddenly appeared image. Right? Say this is P2, and again you have to fix another pin, because minimum number of pins we need to locate a ray is 2. Minimum number of rays we need to locate a ray is 2. Right? Then again you have to locate the second pin by keeping the eye, by moving the eye, by moving the eye at the same point, same critical point, as it is collinear with both P2 and P1. Right? Then P3 right? After this, this is all about a construction. Right? Then right. Now we are going to do a construction. Right? Listen. Now, first of all, you have to mark the boundaries of prism, and we are going to remove the prism from the sheet. Right? Prism boundary mark right? Then this is a construction. Right? This is a construction. Listen, this is a construction. First, you have to draw a normal to this face AC. You have to draw a normal to face AC, a normal to face AC like this. And as this distances are equal, mark another point here. Right? Mark another point here. May points may use lazy say I. Right? I right? Like this. right? And then you have to connect these two and extend this ray until it meets BC surface, right? Connect these two and extend the ray until it meets BC surface, right? Say it is met at R, right? It is met at R. Then the next thing is we are going to connect these two. We are connecting these two. Right? And say this intersection point is S, right? මම මේකම use කරන්නේ. ඔයගොල්ලෝ ආයි cross check කරොත් අකුරු පැටලෙන්නේ නැති වෙන්න මොකද letters ගොඩක් දානවනේ. Right? Like this. And now we know this. If the image is observed through, right? මේකත් connect කරලා ඉන්නවා. If the image is observed through total internal reflection, right? At this surface, it should be the exact point where it undergoes total internal reflection. But we got the sudden appearance and sudden disappearance now, which means that is just passing the critical angle. That is almost at the critical angle, right? That's the logic we use. Sudden appearance එක. That is almost at the critical angle. Critical angle එක තියෙන වෙලාවට අපිට පේන්නේ නැහැ. Total internal reflection වෙච්ච ගමන් පේනවා, right? Critical point means that is almost at the critical angle, right? So therefore, we draw a normal here and going to connect these rays. Then this ray has come from here to here, and here it has undergone total internal reflection, and after the refraction, this is the emergent ray, right? Then this is considered as C because we are at the critical point. That is almost C. Right? C valing beyond C, even if a 0.0001 degrees is changed, it is coming to total internal reflection, right? So that is almost C, right? Make a C consider karna. This is considered as C, right? Hurry. Now 2C is a measurable angle. You can measure 2C using the protractor. Measure 2C, right? Again, P1SR. Measure the angle P1SR. That is equivalent to 2C. Then C is given by, right? C is given by half of this angle, right? If this is known, according to this, we can easily determine refractive index of prism, right? The mega identify කරගන්න එක හිතන තරම් ලේසි නෑ හොඳ. ඒ කියන්නේ කියද්දී එහෙම ලේසි වුණාට you will see the disappearance and appearance, right? Then once you do it several times, then you will get an idea where it is going to fall, right? And then carefully you have to first fix the pin, right? Carefully. Just a second එක පොඩි වෙලාවක් යනවා. ඉතින් පොඩි වෙලාවක් කියන්නේ it takes around 10-15 minutes, right? මේ දෙක ගහගත්තා නම් එතනින් පස්සේ වැඩේ ඉවරයි. This is called determination of refractive index using critical angle. We have two experiments from prisms. In both cases, we are determining n, right? First one is from angle of deviation. Second one is from critical angle, right? මේවා compare කරලා බලන්න. prisms වල දෙකයි තියෙන්නේ. syllabus එකටම prisms වල experiments තියෙන දෙකයි. Simple as that. optics වල හතයි. ඉතින් වෙන වෙනම break down කරගන්න. ඒතකොට ලේසි. prisms දෙකයි, lenses දෙකයි, spectrometer එකෙන් දෙකයි. මුලින් කරපු එකත් එක්ක තමයි 7. That is from the glass block එක වෙනම එකක්. Right? Okay, then theory mention කරානේ. Write down method. Materials and apparatus ලියවනේ. Write down method. First point. Right. First point. Keep the equilateral prism. Keep the equilateral prism in the middle of white sheet. On a straight line drawn on the white sheet, on the white sheet. On the straight line drawn on the white sheet. Second point, fix optical pin P1, fix optical pin P1, fix optical pin P1, fix optical pin P1, fix optical pin P1 as it is in contact with face AB, as it is in contact with face AB, as it is in contact with face AB. Abi gel devam edelim kare. Ask her gel with face AB of the prism. With face AB of the prism. Move I, next point, move I from C to B. Move I from C to B. Move I from C to B. Observing through C to B. Move I from C to B, observing through face BC. Observing through face BC. Identify the critical point. Next point. Identify the critical point. Identify the critical point. Identify the critical point. Identify the critical point when the image of P1, when the image of P1, when the image of P1 is suddenly disappeared. When the image of P1 is suddenly disappeared. When the image of P1 is suddenly disappeared. And fix optical pins P3 and P4, and fix optical pins P3 and P4, and fix optical pins P3 and P4 as they are collinear with, as they are collinear with, as they are collinear with, as they are collinear with the image of P1, as they are collinear with the image of P1. Within brackets, a sudden appearance of image, a sudden appearance of image can be observed. A sudden appearance of image can be observed. A sudden appearance of image can be observed if I is moved from B to C. If I is moved from B to C. If I is moved from B to C. For the same point, write down moving the eye in both directions. Moving the eye in both directions. Moving the eye in both directions. Moving the eye in both directions is recommended. To clearly identify critical point. Is recommended to clearly identify critical point. Is recommended to clearly identify critical point. To clearly identify critical point. Next point. Mark the boundary of prism. 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 And remove it from white sheet. Mark the boundary of prism and remove it from white sheet. And conduct the following constructions. And conduct the following constructions. And conduct the following constructions. Right? mention these constructions in like bullet form. මේකට ඕඩර් එකක් තියෙනවා. මේ ඕඩර් එක තමයි question එක අහන්නේ උදේ. structured එක අහන්නේ ඕඩර් එකට. ඒ ඕඩර් එක තමයි ලියන්න ඕනේ. නැත්තම් දෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඒක structured නේ. right, first bullet. Draw normal for AC. Draw normal for AC. Draw normal for AC. Draw a normal for AC. And mark point I. And mark point I. Label this as X. And mark point I as P1X equals XI. And mark point I as P1X equals XI. Mark point I as P1X equals XI. Right? Next bullet. Connect P3 and P2. Connect P2 and P3. Connect P2 and P3. And extend the ray. Connect P2 and P3. Connect P2 and P3 and extend the ray until it meets face BC at R. Until it meets face BC at R. Until it meets face BC at R. Right? Next point. Connect I and R. Connect I and R. Connect I and R. And label the meeting point of IR. And label the meeting point of IR with AC as S. And label the meeting point of IR with AC as S. Right? Diagram එක අපි අඳිනවා. තාම අඳින්නේ නැහැනේ. ඕකෙන් පස්සේ අඳින්නවා. S. Next point. Complete the ray diagram. Complete the ray diagram according to diagram below. Complete the ray diagram according to the diagram below. Right, take this down, this one. Have a clear diagram and clearly mark these angles, distances, labels, points, everything. Right? And make sure you are putting the same labeling I have used. I have given the note according to the labeling here. Right? Then make a P1, P2 නෙමෙයිනේ pins වල දාලා තියෙන්නේ. I have used P1, P2. Right? අර මේක දෙන්න අමතකනවද? දන්නවද? අනේ මට අමතක නෑ. Name, school, contact number. අනිත් ඒවා වැස් අර එදා වගේ ලියන්න බෑ වැස් කියලා හරිද? And pass it. Okay, finished? මේක ලියන්න එපා. මම මේක ලියන්න කියලා කිව්වේ නෑ. Don't write this. right? මේක මේකද ඒක ලියලානේ තියෙන්නේ. මේ වෙන මොකුත් නෑ, only the diagram, only the ray diagram, only the ray diagram. අනිත් ඒවා ලියාගන්න එපා, මේක ලිව්වා, මේක නෑ තාම. only the ray diagram. Right, next point, determine refractive index of prism. Determine refractive index of prism. Using the equation discussed in theory, under theory. Using the equation discussed under theory. Right. Mention this now. From here, C is known. Then, therefore, mention both of them. N equals 1 over sine C. N equals 1 over sine C. Right? This is 2C, so C is known. N is 1 over sine C. Right? Next, remarks. First point. P1 should be fixed. In contact with AB. P1 should be fixed in contact with AB. P1 should be fixed in contact with AB. To clearly identify the point where light rays enter the prism. To clearly identify the point where light rays enter the prism. Within brackets, without being refracted. Right. The next thing, listen. I told you that taking the eye from B to C and C to B, both sides, either ways, is better. It is recommended. It is recommended. Right? But if you ask about which direction is better from B to C and C to B, right? For that we have an answer. Right? Biologically, it is said that identifying a disappearance is easier than or more convenient than identifying an appearance. Right? එහෙමයක් තියෙනකනේ. පෙනි තියෙන එකක් එකපාරට නැති වෙන එක ඇහැට ලේසියිලු. Right? Any biological facts? One fact එක දන්න, it's biologically it says disappearance is more easy to identify. ඒ කියන්නේ පේන එකක් නැති වෙන එක අපිට හොඳට sense වෙනවලු. නිකන් එකක් පේනවල වඩා. Right? A biological fact. Therefore, if one is asked, if the direction, better direction is C to B, because then only you will observe the disappearance. Right? Disappearance. Appearance. But repeating again, doing both is the recommended way. Right? If a question is asked as which direction is more suitable or something like that, right? Then more suitable one is said to be the disappearance, because it is much easier to identify. Biologically කියන්නේ ඒකදී අපිට තේරෙනවා මේක biological fact එක මොකක්ද කියලා දන්නේ නැහැ. Right? ඒක පාට ඉතින් image එක වේද්දි ඉතින් ඒක අර critical point එක easily identify කරගන්න පුළුවන්. පේන එකක් නැති වෙනවට වඩා අපි මොකුත් පේන්නේ නැතුව ඉඳලා suddenly පේන්න ගන්නවනේ. Right? You are observing the image all of a sudden. Right? ඒතකොට නිකන් අර පේන්නේ නැතුව තිබිලා ඒ අපේ නිකන් screen එකට නිකන් මොකක් හරි එකක් ආවා වගේ එකක් නේ. ඒක ලේසියිනේ. That's the thing. Okay, next point. Okay, clear there. Next point. When I is moved from C to B, 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 it is much easier to identify the critical point. It is much easier to identify the critical point. Within brackets, a sudden disappearance is more sensitive to human eye, Right. Next point. Same experiment can be extended. Same experiment can be extended to determine refractive index of a liquid. Right. Listen. This is the extension we do. Look at the board. Right. Then extension part take right. Extension again. Right. We are taking a small glass slide. Right. Using a glass slide, a thin layer of liquid should be confined here, like this. Using a glass slide, a thin layer of liquid should be confined here. Right? A thin layer of liquid should be confined here. And we are repeating the same. Now, glass and liquid, no? What is the dense medium here from glass and liquid? Glass. So still we are going to get the critical angle, right? But the critical angle is not with respect to air, but with respect to liquid, right? Still we can get the critical angle. Same method take karno. Okay? Repeat the same. Then you will get this ray again, like this, right? And say this new critical angle you got. Repeat the same, C dash. Say it is C dash. The new one. Now, if you apply Snell's law, this is what happens now. Say this is N glass, and this is N of the liquid, NL, right? Then N1 sin I equals N2 sin R. N glass sin C dash equals N2 at the critical point, at critical angle, sin 90, right? N2, sorry, NL. Sin 90 is 1. Now, NL equals Ng times sin C dash, right? Ng is known. This was Ng. One more sin C. Plug it here. Then NL is sin C dash over sin C. If C and C dash are known, NL can be determined. Right? Simple as that. Right? Body extension liquid right? Ng plug because we know Ng from first step. Right? We know the value of Ng from the first step. Right? Without finding Ng, if you need to find NL at once, then C and C dash are known. No? They are known values. Sin C dash or sin C. Right? The extra mile of that is conducting it to a liquid. Right? Extension. Right. Take this down, starting from here. And I got this substitution for G from this one. Right? I got the substitution from this one. Right? This was Ng. Refractive index of the glass medium of prism, Ng. Take it down. This is at critical angle. At critical angle. At critical angle. මේක තමයි liquid එක හොඳ. This is confined. This is confined using a small glass slide. මම එක note එකක් දෙන්නම්. මේ දැන් prism එකේ surface එකට තියාගන්න ඕනේ. This is close to the surface of the prism and using a glass slide this liquid is confined. මෙහෙම glass slide එකක් එක තමයි තියලා තියෙන්නේ. Finished? Write down below. First point. First point. First point. Confine a small volume of liquid. 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 Confine a small volume of liquid using a glass slide. Using a glass slide. Using a glass slide. Using a glass slide as shown. As shown. And repeat the experiment. And repeat the experiment. And repeat the experiment. And repeat the experiment. If respective, next point, if respective critical angle is C dash, if respective critical angle is C dash, NL can be determined, NL can be determined using equation above. 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 Right? Okay, that's it. Any questions? Any questions? The mega extension එක දාලා නැහැ උදේ. But if you check 10 questions from this experiment, right? In around 6-7 questions, the extension is also asked. It's question. Right? Extension එක දාන්න ඉන්න ඕනේ. Extension එක දාන්න ඉන්න ඕනේ. Right. Right, make a note එක දාලා තියෙනවා by placing a wet microscope slide on face AC and trapping a water layer. Right, confine means trapping a water layer. It is possible to determine the critical angle of water glass interface. Right, so that is what I have explained here. Right, so that's the end of experiment 3 also. Any questions? අදිශ මොකක් කරේ තිබ්බනේ? මොන්දක මොකක් කරේ? හරිද? All good? Spectrometer එකත් කරලාම break එකක් ගන්නවද මොකද ගන්න? All good? Online? Any questions? All good. Right. Okay then. If no questions, right? If no questions, right? Listen. We'll take a break. We'll take a break. You can't leave the premises, right? You can't leave the premises of the institute, right? So whatever you do, you can do inside. කාලා බීලා ඉන්න ඇතුළට වෙලා යන්න බෑ හොඳේ. That's it. And online ones. Now what's the time? 10:23. We'll be taking a 30 minutes break. Right? Then I'll be starting again at 10:53. Right? So online ones also you can go refresh yourself, have dinner, and come back. And I'll be giving another break around 12:31, somewhere around. Fish. Around 12:31, somewhere around. Right? So until then, make yourself comfortable. Right? ඒ කියන්නේ දැන් මේකෙන් පස්සේ මේ ආයි 1 වගේනේ break එකක් දෙන්නේ after finishing spectrometer. Right? So after the break, we'll be starting spectrometer. Right? Listen. Two main experiments we have. Right? Two main experiments we have in the list of optics. Right? Spectrometer කියලා කියන්නේ වෙනම experiments දෙකක්. වෙනම instrument එකක්. Right? මුලින් ඉඳන්ම කියන්න ඕනේ වෙනම instrument එකක්. theory වල අපි කතා කරලා නැහැනේ spectrometer කියලා එක. That's an instrument. Right? ඒතර අපි ඒක තමයි මේකෙන් පස්සේ කතා කරන්නේ. After spectrometer, I'll be giving you another break. Right? So until that break, make yourself comfortable. Right? If you are having some snacks or something like that, keep it here and make yourself comfortable until 1. Right? Okay then let's have a break and regroup by 10:53. Right.